Our next point on this with wokeness. Some abortion supporters say, if you really believe there's mass casualty atrocity going on inside the abortion facility, you wouldn't just stand there and pray.
It's usually right after they accuse us of being violent, like bombers of abortion clinics, right? Like
we go from terrorists to pushovers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty wild to hear them say this. I had someone say this, I think on the anniversary of Roe, we had a little prayer rally to celebrate the overturning of Roe back in June. And this guy's like, what would you do if you saw someone was about to kill a 3-year-old? Well, you'd intervene, right? This is the whole Uvalde controversy, right? Like the officers didn't do their jobs and they didn't put their lives on the line to protect the innocent. And he's kind of trying to make the case that same thing for the pro-lifers. We wouldn't put our lives on the line either. We wouldn't put our bodies in between the abortionist and the baby who's in danger. And I think that's just a bad analogy because what's the alternative? There's a wholly different set of circumstances. If you've got a 3-year-old who's about to get gunned down by a madman and you've got, abortion taking place on an industrial level. If I step in between the madman with a gun and the 3-year-old, I can save that life. Maybe I'm going to take the bullet for it. Maybe I'm not, but somebody's going to come in and law enforcement will get there. The child will be saved. And thanks be to God that child will be saved. If I go in and commit an act of violence at an abortion facility, then they're just going to go down the street to the other abortion facility, or they're going to come back the next day. It's not effective. As we've covered already, it's not just. We wouldn't be doing violence even if it were effective from a tactical standpoint. But prayer works. It is effective. That's why we've seen 23,575 babies saved at that last moment, because somebody made that decision to go there and stand and pray. I always think when you see folks who are secular or atheist and they use the word just, it's very reductionist. Oh, we're just a blob of cells. It's just a fetus. It's just this. You wouldn't just be standing there praying. Well, that just standing there praying, a lot of babies are alive and well today and are no longer babies. They're children, they're teenagers, they're on the brink of adulthood because someone was, quote, just praying.
Yeah, and those people really don't know what they're talking about, because there's two sides of it. There's what you said, Steve. There's the peaceful, but we also have the data for the non-peaceful. So at the height of violence on abortion facilities, bombings, shootings, which did happen. Some people are like, oh, we don't want to talk about that. They did happen. And the abortion industry milked it. It set our movement back decades. Acts of violence. These lunatics coming out of the woods and shooting abortion doctors and patting themselves on the back as being some kind of a martyr. They set the pro-life movement back decades. And during that time, abortions in America were at an all-time high. That is the peak. The mid to late 90s is the peak of abortions in the United States. So the more violent those who, they're not even pro-life, they claim to be pro-life, they're pro-life conditionally. Those who took matters into their own hands and started shooting abortion doctors and bombing abortion facilities, that abortions were at an all-time high. There were more abortionists in America than ever before. They were able to pass late a partial birth abortion. That was a big, we just made this monstrous movement victims whenever some people did that. And you can ask Ernie Sear. We've talked to him a lot. They had a couple of bombings in Pensacola, Florida. He didn't know that. He moved from Boston. He signed up to lead 40 Days for Life, and they're like, you can't go out to clinics here. We had a bunch of violence just a couple of years ago. And he's like, I already paid my application fee. I'm in, and so they've closed 3 abortion facilities, maybe 4, Pensacola, I think, has gone from 5 to 1 abortion.
They're down to 0. Actually, the whole panhandle is free right now.
It's abortion free.
Yep.
So the nuts started shooting and bombing everybody. That didn't work. They got more abortion facilities with more protections and the FACE Act and all craziness. And then Ernie goes in there and starts praying with all of his kids and recruits people and closes all the abortion facilities. They're abortion free. He was, by the way, our 2016 40 Days for Life Leader of the Year. The first ever Leader of the Year went to Dr. Ernie Sear. Great, wonderful pharmacist. So, that's just one of the many examples. On the other end, Steve, since we're doing statistics, the more persecution we've gotten from law enforcement and the DOJ, we see abortions going down the last few years. We see a rise in the chemical abortions, but we've seen 36% of all Planned Parenthood locations close in the last decade. This last decade, that goes back to Obama. So it's just, it's phenomenal.
Phenomenal
Violence.
and dramatic. And that's the funny thing is the flip side of the argument, if you really believed it was genocide, you wouldn't just be standing there praying. Well, if I didn't believe it was genocide, why would I give up my time to go stand on the sidewalk and get heckled by guys like you for an hour at a time in my life? There's just no reason to do it. I'm, as you know, Sean, I would, without some higher cause, I would be a complete degenerate eating Doritos and watching football highlights all day.